If you have built an AI application, and this can be a chatbot also, right? And if you have thought about the fact that, hey, what is that AI model I have to use? How am I going to host this application that I'm going to use? How do I make sure that AI does not hallucinate? If you've given this thought, then you are one step ahead to answer the question, what is an AI stack? And for each and every application that you make, it is must that you think about the AI stack beforehand, whether you're building a proof of concept or you're building a large scale organization level application. So in this video, we're going to discuss exactly that. What is that framework? And try to put everything into place and try to answer for each layer what type of dilemma or what type of options you might have. Let's get started with the video. So every AI system that we have created, or any system that we have created, that must had a real world problem that we are trying to solve, a meaningful problem statement that we are trying to solve. Obviously, I'm not taking away the fun that we have with AI. Obviously, there are a lot of new AI tools are coming in, which is, for example, especially on the image sector, that you can play around with your images as well. I'm not taking that fun away, but when you're trying to create value out of AI in an organization, we always need to think from the perspective of a meaningful problem statement, right? So, for our entire discussion, now let's try to take one problem statement and see how we can put that into the layer. So here let's say you're trying to create a tool for the drug discovery researcher, right? And the problem statement is, how can we help these researchers where they need to access not only the archived papers but also the latest publications as well, right? How can we help them? So when we try to create that, that is our problem statement. When we try to start thinking about that system that we are going to build, definitely there are some questions that comes to our mind. Number one, that I need to fetch latest scientific papers. I need to have those scientific papers with me. um, it's a health domain, it's a complex domain, and there is a knowledge cutoff on the LLM that I'm going to use. So how do I overcome that? Like whether I'm going to use RAG or CAG. From the previous videos, you have to probably realize that. So with that statement, let's try to bring the 5 layers of AI stack, right? And if you see here the solution, these 5 layers, infrastructures, models, data, orchestration, and application, sits one at the top of the other, right? And building an AI application requires making critical choices, and these choices that you make at every layer of these things will have consequences. And these consequences can be positive consequences, this can be a negative consequences as well. So we'll discuss about that each and every time. So let's go one by one and try to see what each layer means and what are the dilemmas or the questions that you have to answer in each of these layers. So as I was saying, the lowest is infrastructure, and this is your layer 1, and this is the foundation where your models, data, orchestration, and at the end the application will actually lie. Now when it comes to setting up or thinking about your infrastructure in your AI stack, you typically have 3 options. The first is on-premise. So you buy some GPUs, you create your own server room, fancy server room, and try to host all your AI models at the top of it, right? Now, when it comes to this, there are certain decisions that you probably have to take. You have to figure out that, okay, the application that I'm going to build, how much people are going to use it. Because if you have, let's say, like 50,000, 60,000 users concurrently trying to hit that, then you might have to increase your GPU cost, and then you have to take a call that is it even making sense for me to basically build something on my own and have on-premise. Also, the reverse is also true. Let's say you, like for example, let's say in Europe, you will probably try to build it in-house because the governance structure requires you to have everything inside the organization, right? But most of the time, what we move to is to the cloud one, which is the second thing, that you rent the capacity, scale as needed, etc. Right? And in cloud also there are 2 parts. One is that you go to AWS, you rent some GPUs from there and pay as you go. Also, you might like to call an LLM which is hosted by something like Azure or something like that, right? So that is also possible. But here we are talking about building the infrastructure, not calling the models. So you can actually physically build it, or you can actually rent it from the cloud. So you can go to AWS or GCP or Azure and try to customize your servers based on your requirement need, and sometimes it might be a little bit cheaper for you as well. The third option is that you run the models locally, the applications entirely locally, run smaller models directly on your laptop. Now here also, even it is a small language model, the normal laptops will not be able to do that, right? So you, even for that, you have to understand that I have that many employees or that many people who are going to use this. Do I have the budget to basically buy these type of laptops where they can actually go ahead and run the model directly from their laptop? One of the plus point is that you probably don't need internet. You can have the application directly sitting on their laptop, but it's going to cost you a lot. Do you have that appetite to basically take that thing into account while you're building your infrastructure? So if I go back to our researchers thing, then in our researchers application, the choice depends on the budget, data security, and the power needed to process the scientific data, right? And that is probably one of the things that we'll keep in mind while building that researchers application that we had. The second layer is the engine, which is basically the models layer. So this is where your AI will be thinking, right? And how much critical your use case is will govern that what type of models or stack of models you need to have, right? So you have Hugging Face, or you might also download these models directly from internet. But you must have to give a thought that do you want to go for open source or you want to go for proprietary. Now we'll probably create a detailed video on that, that how do you choose open source versus proprietary. But just to keep this video short, one of the things that you have to keep in mind that uh, if you're going for open source, then you are actually going to need a little bit more GPUs, even for smaller models, to basically host and run it. So what models that you can take, you can quantize those models and kind of host it inside your infrastructure, depends on the complexity of the problem that you're going to do, right? Data security is one of the reasons why you'll probably go for larger open source models and try to host it inside as well, right? Which brings to the second point, which is the size. Now, should you be using LLM or should you be using something like a Phi 3 from Microsoft or Tiny Llama from Meta, which are open source LLMs as well? Or you should go for large language models, right? Where you need the latest models like GPT 5.1 thinking or Gemini 3 Pro, etc. And that solely depends on what type of problem that you are trying to solve. What is the complexity? What is the reasoning needed from these models, right? And then there are specializations. So let's say you are trying to build a model where you are going to give it to all your developers to code, right? Now we know that Claude probably does a great coding. I'll not go anywhere else. If I have to use any language models to code, I'll definitely go for Claude 3.5 onwards, Sonnet for coding. Recently, Gemini 3 and Anti-Gravity as an editor combination works pretty good. But in some cases, your organization might not allow you to use because those things, because there might be some NDA problems between Anthropic or Google, and they will still like to use the capability of LLMs coding into their developers to make the developers more productive. But you might have to host something like a Llama 3 or Llama 4, and then build at the top of it. There are a lot of coding models that are also available open source that you have to download, and then you can basically use them only for coding tasks, right? And then if you want to do reasoning, you might go for DeepSeek or something like Gemini 2.5 Pro or 3, right? So for our researcher thing, a model specialized in scientific reasoning is more important than just generates code. So we'll try to look for that specialization. BioGPT is one model which, in this case, if I was the person who is basically trying to build that stack, will probably try to go ahead and build at the top of it. Then comes the data. Now, the data layer is the knowledge. Now, when you are building some applications, you are also building a knowledge stack, right? And as in the other videos where we are talking about RAG and all, we figured out that how important is this to basically build this custom knowledge base, or create a continuous pipeline of your data where external or latest data is always ingested into this pipeline to create a new knowledge base for the LLMs to use, right? So you might have multiple data sources, and it is not just external data. Let's say you have an API, internal API, where you are trying to you have some APIs to fetch some organizational information into this knowledge base, and you want to build that knowledge base along with that, and because your application demands that. So you can go ahead and create the data sources, right? And then you will have this processing pipelines. How do you clean the data in and data out between that, what all you are going to do. And sometimes you will be converting some of those data into vector databases for doing RAG or something like that, right? So what type of vector database you will be using here? Do you need a sophisticated one, or do you need a small vector database? Because you know that the amount of work that you are going to do with embeddings is pretty less, right, in this case, and that is solely defined by your use case. So this is how we actually feed model the latest research papers for our use case that we do. So what we'll do is basically in this, I'll probably figure out what are the sources from which I have to fetch the latest papers, and this can be external internet sources, or I might be subscribed to some of the external researchers who send me their PDF of researchers based on some subscription that I'm paying. So I'll gather those PDF and I'll try to put that into the pipeline so that this data layer is pretty strong and pretty clean. The next layer is basically orchestration. So now this is where the most of the magic happens. There's a workflow, right? And if you have a very complex problem, this is the layer where you actually break it down to a smaller parts, right? So you take a complex task, and more a single input and output, which probably requires a more than single input and output. You try to orchestrate that here, and most of our agentic solution that we try to build will lie here, right? Where you have to probably create an agentic orchestration. Let's say it's an agentic use case. You have decided that I'm going to build a bunch of agents which will do these set of tasks for me to complete a bigger task. Then you will do that orchestration here. While you do that, you will figure out that for this larger complex task, I might need the reasoning capabilities from model for only this part of the task, right? And then I'll quickly move to execution, where the other agents will take that information from that reasoning model and try to basically go ahead and create some, do some task to gather more information, or obey to some of the orders that are given by the reasoning model. And then there will be some models which will just be reviewing the task done by the other agents, right? And feed it back to the thinking reasoning model. So you will see that there is a loop that you will mostly be dealing with, right? So instead of just summarizing for our researcher use case that we are talking about, you might have to find relevant papers, extract key data, synthesize finding, and put proper citation for those sources. And as I was saying, you might have one agent which is fetching information from one data source and pushing to the data layer, right? So this orchestration layer is very, very important. And this orchestration can be simple or can be again complex. And as I've been saying for the other 4 layers, it solely depends on the problem that you are trying to solve. And the last layer is the application layer. This is where your user actually meets what you have built below that, like till orchestration. And we all know, not only just for AI applications, for any applications, your usability is critical, right? And this can be a small to small decision might impact if your application is being adopted by your end users or not, right? As it says here, the interface must allow for different inputs, revisions, and citations while integrating with the user's existing tool. For example, let's say I've created a chatbot and I have my data layer. I also have created the citations, and it's typically, let's say, a text in and text out interface, right? So it doesn't do anything. I, as a researcher, ask something and I get back something. But when the citation comes, is this a link that I click on this and it takes me to the exact place, right? To give an example, in one of our projects, there are a lot of PDFs from where we have created a chatbot, and when user asked this question, it gave the answer and also gave the citation. We clicked on this, it took them to that exact page from where it has actually created the answer. But the user said that can it exactly take it to that place also in that PDF, right? And that solely, this is where your experienced designers, research, you need to talk to your end users also, that how they want to see this application, right? The other way this application can be, should be, the other reason why it is important is basically also because it might be integrating. It might not be a standalone application all the time. It might be fetching information from other applications that people are using, or this entire application might reside inside an existing application which is a non-AI application, but you have an AI part to it, and this application kind of follows that. In that case, what type of integration you need to make a non-AI workflow an AI first workflow? This is where I think the researchers, if I kind of take the example of our researchers use case, the researchers need to see more information from the citation, not just the page number, let's say. They need to find out findings, and on that citation, when they see the citation, they should have a button where they click on it. There should be a deep research on that specific thing should be done. So those type of things you have to keep in mind while you are creating. So if you look at these 5 things, this entirely builds your AI stack, right? And this is very, very important to give it a thought. Sometimes if you're working with multiple projects, you might need to think of a scalable version of this, right? So in models layer, you might have to create a model swarm where you have a proper orchestration at the model level also, that okay, if I have a complex problem, can it automatically pick this type of models? If I have a less complex problem, can it pick up smaller models? So this orchestration and this AI stack will take different shapes based on how you are thinking as an architect to make your organization AI first, right? So from the foundation, this actually stacks at the top of it, and as this image shows you, each layer talks to each other and build at the top of it. And for the models, the example that I gave, you can also put an orchestration at the model level also if you want, but your foundation kind of stays very strong. And coming back to what I started with, right? Your choices have consequences. So what type of consequences you might face? The quality, the speed, the cost, and the safety, right? When you create these layers, you have to keep in mind that how do you make a balance of all these 3? You can do everything in cheaper, but your quality and safety might be a compromise, right? So what is your strategy to build that AI stack? And understanding that the entire stack is very, very essential before even you start building your application. So with that, I think I tried to cover everything from the AI stack from the foundation level. And now you can go back, relook at what you have been building, and try to understand how your stack look like for this 5 layers that we have. Take a note of every layer, what you have, and relook at it and rethought. Think about your challenges that you are facing as of today, right? And maybe you will end up with a new AI stack or a modified AI stack for your existing application. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the next topic.